locational basis in accordance with the Local Government and Elections Wales Act, and the arrangements of multi-location meetings agreed by Council, which will operate alongside the Council standing orders to ensure that we continue to take democratic decisions in an open, transparent manner. For those attending the meeting in the Council chamber, please note that today's meeting is being filmed for live and subsequent broadcast by way of the Council's internet site. The images and sounds recorded may also be used for training purposes within the Council. As you will see from the agenda papers, generally the public seating areas are not filmed. However, by entering the meeting room and using the public seating areas, you are consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings for webcasting and for training purposes. As well as being broadcast live, a recorded version will be available on the Council's website within 24 hours of the meeting. With those members present of the Council chamber, please use their microphones to contribute to the meeting, and please remember not to get too close to the microphone and also to switch off their microphone when you are finished. For those attending the meeting remotely, can I request that you switch off your cameras and mute your microphones when you are not speaking to ensure that there is no unnecessary background noise to help with the audio and visual quality of the broadcast. The Council standing orders and code of conduct will apply at all times during this hybrid meeting in the same way as ordinary meetings, and members should conduct themselves accordingly. For the benefit of everyone watching on the live screen, when I invite members to cast their votes remotely on any particular item, will they do so electronically using the voting facility in the chat function? The votes will be automatically counted and are recorded on the system, but individual votes are not identified on the screen, and the chat room poll is not available on the live stream for public viewing. However, I will announce the number of votes cast for and against and any abstention before I declare the result. For those members in the Council chamber, will they vote in the usual way by a show of hands? Welsh translation of the proceedings can be provided upon request. I now move to item 1. I have received apologies for absence from the following councillors: Kevin Whitehead and William Routley. Are there any other apologies for any that need to be recorded? Right. Item 2 on item 1. Are there any declarations of interest at this stage? Councillor Montford?
Item 10.
Sorry?
Item 10, the mayoral nomination.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Councillor.
Item 5, the notice of motion. Just declare that I work in children's care industry.
Okay, right. Thank you very much. Right, move on to my announcements. I think a couple of points. I think we're losing our head of legal services, Liz Bryan. She's going to Plymouth, back home. And it's interesting, really, and I was only talking to Matthew earlier on. Our last but one chief executive, Tracy Lee, she went to Plymouth. So I don't know what Plymouth got that we haven't got. Maybe got a bit more money, maybe, I don't know. But anyway, best of luck in your new venture. You're going back home, I understand. And thank you for all the work that you've done in this authority. Thank you very much. Right, move to item 2, the minutes from the 28th of November 2023.
Sorry, presiding member.
Sorry.
Was there another announcement you were going to make?
Sorry? Oh, sorry, I do apologise. One of our councillors, I think it was Margaret Cornelius' husband, has died, and he was the consort. So can we have a minute's silence, please? And I apologise for that delay. Okay, thank you very much indeed. Right, moving on to item 2, the minutes. The minutes from the 28th of November 2023 are before us. Are there any points of accuracy? Councillor Lacey?
Thank you, Presiding Member. Just to say that my apologies have not been noted for the last meeting.
Oh,
Thank you.
Okay, right. We'll make sure they're added. No other points of order. I move the minutes as a true record. Is there a seconder? Councillor Dimitri. With all those in favour, please indicate by clicking on the voting application in the chat box, and I will give members a short time to cast their votes. And members in the chamber, please vote accordingly. That's 100%. Thank you. Item 3, Councillor Clark to introduce this item.
Thank you, Presiding Member. I would just like to move all the appointments listed on page 24. Thank you.
Can I invite Councillor Reeks to second the report?
Happy to second that, Presiding Member.
Would all councillors please cast their votes now by clicking on the appropriate box in the chat function. I will give all members a short time to cast their vote before confirming the result. Just waiting for the chat box to come through. It's 100% again. Thank you very much indeed. We move on to police issues, so I'm pleased to welcome Superintendent Jason White to the meeting. Can I ask Superintendent to start, please?
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me? It's better. It's been a busy couple of weeks in Newport, and none more so, I think, than the weekend where we hosted Wrexham in the football. I have to say, really pleased with the way in which we resourced it, and I mean that not just from the police but from the local authority and partners as well. We cancelled officers' rest days so that we were happy that it was sufficiently resourced, and of course at the same time we were facilitating the peaceful march as well that started at midday. Pleased to say that things went relatively smoothly. There was just one arrest inside the stadium for a racially aggravated public order offence. But other than that, apart from one or two skirmishes, it was very well policed. Notwithstanding, next week, or this weekend, we've got Man United. For all you Man United fans out there, we're coming to watch your idols. And then the following week, we've got Swindon at home as well. So, again, a lot of rest days has been cancelled for officers who are going to be working those anticipated two busy weekends. Just a couple of things I just want to talk about as well, just by way of an update. The cannabis cultivations within Newport, we call it Operation Forester. That's the new operational name that we've got. Just by way of an update, we've currently up to 14 cannabis cultivations at the moment for Newport, where we've seized 11,500 plants with a yield anything upwards of £7 million street value at a cost of just over £1 million to the national grid. So we're talking significant losses. 17 arrests to date. That list, I can assure you, will grow. We have clearly unearthed an organised crime group working not just within the Newport area, but within the Gwent and further afield. So we've got a dedicated team that's been allocated to the investigation of that. And you'll see in the coming weeks and months some further proactive work going on in relation to that. Secondly, there was something in the South Wales Argus and Press over the last week or so regarding retail crime, particularly commercial burglaries in the city centre, and some concerns, I think, by retailers. First of all, I just want to give some reassurance, really. So the city centre itself, the trajectory is on for a 3.5% reduction in overall crime. in relation to all crime types. In relation to the commercial burglaries, it did peak, unfortunately, in November. We had 25 commercial burglaries in the Newport city centre area. However, through some target hardening, some dedicated patrols and some intelligence-led policing, we were able to manage to arrest 6 individuals. They've all been charged and remanded to court now. And you've seen that month on month, those figures have gone from 25 to 10. And then this month to date, we're on 5 instances. So they keep halving month on month. So I anticipate, even though that we're projected overall for this financial year, a slight increase in commercial burglaries. What I will say is, due to the activity of my team over the last couple of months, those numbers, particularly around commercial burglaries, will go down. And then secondly, shoplifting. I talked briefly last time around a shoplifting team. That was extremely successful during the months of November and December, where we investigated 392 instances of shoplifting in the whole of the east of the force. So we're talking Newport and Monmouthshire. But with a small dedicated team, we were able to detect 45.2% of all our shoplifting within Newport, which, when you actually look at against the national average of around 20%, then that's pretty significant with all the other demands that's placed upon us. And just to give you some sort of idea, when you actually look at what does that look like in numbers of crimes, we've actually detected 269 more shoplifting offences for this period financial year when you compare that to the same period last year. So we are talking significant increases in percentages, but we're also talking significant increases in numbers of crimes that's been detected as well. There's lots, I'm sure, that I could talk about, but I'm just going to open it up to the floor now and ask and invite anybody else to ask me any questions.
Thank you, Superintendent. Leader of the Council.
Thank you, Presiding Member. Thank you, Superintendent. Good to see you again. Welcome. And thank you for providing us with the update there. I welcome your feedback, particularly around shoplifting, because I think that in these difficult times, our retailers do face a lot of challenges. So it's really positive to hear the work that's going on around that, particularly within our city centre. And I'm sure colleagues would join me in welcoming that and reducing the impact that actually has. I'd like to raise, as a ward member, an issue, if I may. And once again, I raise the issue of Almond Drive. It's an issue that we've raised many times, but continues to be of a concern to all of our residents in Malpas, because there's a crossing outside a school. It's the road itself provides access and egress to the estate. There's a high volume of traffic at peak times. And what we've seen, basically, people driving quite unsafely across that. Now, we do, from time to time, we're able to get our civil parking enforcement wardens out there, and, of course, the camera car. But what would be helpful, and certainly what our residents would like to see, is if this could be added to the police patrols, and that we could see a police presence there in future to help deter some of that antisocial behaviour, which it could impact on a child's life. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll raise it with Hannah Welty, who, as you know, has just gone back as the inspector covering that area, and I've got no doubt that she will grip that issue and make sure that her team then links in with the wardens and indeed the school to make sure that we maximise our efforts going forward.
Councillor Morris. Alan, could you get closer to your mic, please?
The problem that we have, and probably every area of the city has, if not the whole of Gwent has, is the problem of cars parking on pavements. It comes up time and time again at our ward meetings, at our ward surgeries. particularly by schools. We're given many, many versions of how you can or cannot park on the pavement. Can you give us a definitive guide as to what is allowable and what isn't allowable when it comes to parking on a pavement?
So parking on pavements, a pavement forms part of the highway, so it's the same as if you're parking on no waiting, WL lines, that type of thing. So first and foremost, the pavement forms part of the highway. Essentially, that's the biggest thing to understand. If for whatever reason that car is parked on the pavement, but it abuts the highway with a double yellow line, no waiting, then obviously the responsibility that now has fallen into the hands of the local authority to enforce that. However, if that vehicle is causing an unnecessary obstruction or parked in a dangerous position or condition, then the police can deal with that. So there's the difference in terms of the responsibility and ownership of who does what in relation to that. I mean, by all means, you can contact me outside of this, talk about the issues more in detail, and then I can get the local team to look at that then Councillor Morris.
Thank you. Councillor Al-Rami.
Yes, thank you, presiding member. I just wanted to pay tribute to the inspector for the city centre, and that is Richard Chaplin. Superintendent, all the introduction you gave us, he's actually kept us as local members for Stowe Hill and the city centre about what's happening regarding the success you've been having with the cannabis and also the shoplifting. He also attended our ward meeting in January last week on a very, very cold night. And again, I think he kept our residents fully informed about the police work and precisely the subjects that you've outlined yourself. So I just wanted to say, we want to convey our thanks through you to him and through his dedication to the ward and to the city centre. And we meet with him regularly, so we wanted to record our thanks to him. Thank you, Superintendent.
Thank you. I do tease Richard because he's only got the one ward to look after in Newport compared to all the other inspectors. But in fairness, he has got a lot of stuff going on in that area at the moment, just down the road, including the cannabis cultivations, the burglaries, and the shoplifting that we've obviously discussed as well. So I will convey those heartfelt thanks and thank you for raising it this evening. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I got Councillor James, Lauren James.
Thank you, presiding member. It's really encouraging to hear the updates on shoplifting and on the focus on drugs. However, we've had a problem in Shaftesbury for quite some time. Residents have been raising concerns about drug dealing on Wheeler Street. I've had concerns raised with me again this weekend, needles being found outside people's front doors, dealing, and these residents have been raising this with us and with the police for, I would say, at least 6 months, if not more, and don't seem to be getting anywhere with that. They've recently been told that they have to start all over again, is what they've said to me, due to a change in staffing. So I'm quite concerned about that. What can you say to reassure residents of Wheeler Street? And more widely, what should residents who are worried about drug dealing in the city do?
Thank you. First of all, I'm a bit concerned. There clearly seems to be a mixed message in there around changing staffing. Yes, Hannah Welty has gone back as the inspector for that area, but that doesn't change the way in which we police. I'm very big on consistency, and yes, Hannah has gone back, but I think that can only be of strength, I think, to the area of Shaftesbury and the surrounding areas. In relation to your second point, I would encourage the residents to link in with their local community support officers and their local PCs. or contact Crime Stoppers, or by other means. We've got online accessibility, which is 24/7 within our force control room, completely anonymous. So if there are any concerns that needs to be raised, then that can be done through that forum. But please, 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 very much like the cannabis cultivations and the Sue on bike issue in Maindy, we can't do it unless we have that community-led intelligence. And once we've got that, believe you me, we will act on it.
What I will say to that, if I may, is that the residents have been raising this, and I've been part of that as well since June and probably before that. So they're doing all the things you're asking them to do and not getting anywhere. It's still an issue. Could you take that up?
I'll take that up, and I'll get Hannah, if that's okay with you, Councillor, to make contact with you direct, and we can discuss the issues going forward.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Aliwami, can you move your hand from the chat box, or unless you want to speak again? Right.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I will be doing that.
Yeah, can I just raise, obviously Lauren James raised a question. Obviously I'm a councillor as well in Shaftesbury, and there's been a lot of success as well in Shaftesbury, because there was 3 families who was causing a hell of a lot of problems in that area, and they have moved out. And at the last liaison meeting we had in one of these sheltered schemes, a lot of the residents said how well that was going, and since those families had moved on, because clearly they were doing a lot of drug dealing, it has improved. Now, I'm not saying it hasn't peaked again, but I'm pleased that Hannah is coming back there, and I think Jason, the new sergeant, is doing an excellent job, and I think if you could pass those messages on to Hannah and Jason, that a lot of us feel a lot more sort of secure with those 2 people in charge. Yeah, absolutely. I'll pass that on. And just for me,
residents of Wheeler Street don't, though, and they've reached out to me to raise this, and I don't think it's reasonable.
You're not allowed to come back. You're not allowed to come back. You've had your question.
Well,
okay, I'll put it in writing, and we can send it on to the superintendent.
So we talk about positive outcomes, and that's just one way in which we measure our performance. But ultimately, what the council is raising there is quality of life issues. So be just reassured that I'll get Hannah to link in with the council outside of this and make sure we address those issues concerned.
Is anybody else want to raise an issue on police matters? Councillor Ibrahim?
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. Sorry. One of your predecessors, Superintendent, talked to us about some new initiatives that were coming into Newport for dealing with off-road bikes, etc., etc. If you saw today's midday news, it shows Clevedon and some of the outrageous behaviour that was going on up there. I'm not suggesting it's quite as bad as Cleveland, but we still have a significant number of off-road bikes and quad bikes. I particularly am concerned about one, the Clevelands, and we've seen some very young children being put on these vehicles, and I've raised it with the district inspector, and I'm sure he will deal with it. But could you also look at it on a wider Newport area and say what you think we should be trying to do? Obviously, intelligence is all, but we do need a more proactive response from the police on this. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we need, first and foremost, is prevention. I think prevention is the cure to most of this. And until we've got legislation, more stronger legislation to prevent the sales of these types of devices and bikes and whatnot, then we're always going to be, unfortunately, facing an upward battle, because this is not something that's going to go away anytime soon. I can see Councillor Morris over there, and you experience the same issues as what you've just mentioned around the Clevelands. It is Newport, but it is force-wide, it's nationwide. What I can say, and you're quite fortunate that you've got Rowley Giles, who's the force lead around the way in which we tackle off-road bikes, e-bikes, e-scooters. As a city, I think we're leading the way in terms of the amount of seizures that we've had. When I spoke in the last council meeting, I think there were 140 seizures. We're way beyond that now over the last 12 months, far more than anywhere else in the force. So we are gathering intel. We are, I don't know whether you saw the ITV headlines a couple of months ago where the ITV cameras went out with the officers, where they seized a bike, ironically in Maindy, where a guy was dealing Class A drugs. He was detained. Lots of drugs were seized from him, including his Ciron bike. That then led to subsequent warrants at a further address nearby, where another 4 individuals were locked up, and sizable amounts of Class A drugs and cash were seized. So all 5 of those individuals are now currently on remand for being concerned in the supply of Class A drugs. So it's an ongoing fight. Part of that is around prevention. It's about target hardening. It's about putting people in the right places at the right time. And it's also about using proportionate tactics, which we are doing. And rest assured, over the next coming weeks, you'll see some more activity that Rowley, or Inspector Giles, is doing with his teams. And you will see, yet again, some more results. But please, please, please don't think that we're not doing anything, because we are.
Thank you.
Okay, I can't see anybody else wants to speak to the Superintendent. So can I just thank you, Superintendent, for attending to this evening, and thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Right, we move on now to item 5, which is quite a pleasing motion, really, when you think about it, and it's the protected characteristics of care experienced people. Councillor Mudd is going to introduce this item and formally move the motion.
Thank you, Presiding Member, and thank you, colleagues. And we have before us this evening, Presiding Member, a motion which I'm confident that all elected members will join us in. So Newport City Council acknowledges that the Children and Young People's Education Committee, established by the Senedd, Welsh Parliament, recommended that care experience becomes a protected characteristic in the UK, in UK legislation, and supports the Corporate Parenting Charter in Wales, which the Welsh Government has recently published, inviting other public sector organisations to become a corporate parent for care experienced children and young people in Wales. This council notes care experienced people face significant barriers that impact them throughout their lives. Despite the resilience of many care experienced people, society too often doesn't take into account their needs. Often does not take their needs into account. Care experienced people often face discrimination and stigma across housing, health, education, relationships, employment, and in the criminal system. Care experienced people may encounter inconsistent support in different geographical areas. As corporate parents, councillors have a collective responsibility for providing the best possible care and safeguarding for the children who are looked after by us as an authority. As corporate parents, Newport City Council will commit to acting as mentors, hearing the voices of care experienced children and young people, and to consider their needs in any aspect of council work. Councillors will be champions of the children in our care and challenge the negative attitudes and prejudice that exists in all aspects of society. This council therefore resolves that it recognises that care experienced people are a group who are likely to face discrimination, that it recognises that Newport Council have a duty to put the needs of disadvantaged people at the heart of decision-making through co-production and collaboration, that future decisions, services and policies made and adopted by the Council should be assessed through equality impact assessments to determine the impact of changes on people with care experience, alongside those who formally share a protected characteristic. That in the delivery of the public sector equality duty, the Council includes care experience in the publication and review of equality objectives, and the annual publication of information relating to people who share a protected characteristic in services and employment. To formally call upon all other bodies to treat care experience as a protected characteristic until such time as it may be introduced by legislation. For the Council to continue proactively seeking out and listening to the voices of care experienced people when developing new policies based on their views. Thank you, Presiding Member.
Thank you, Leader. Is there...
I'll speak at the end.
Right. Sorry? Yeah, okay. Is there a seconder? Do you wish to speak now or later?
Reserve the right.
Okay. Does any other member want to speak? Councillor Deb Davis, please. Thanks.
Thank you, Presiding Member. We all know that the Equalities Act in 2010 was passed to protect individuals and their characteristics, whether that be age, religion, sex or sexual orientation. And there were 10 protected characteristics that were, it was determined that they would be protected in total. Sadly, care experience is not a protected characteristic. Whilst evidence is clear, this has a life-changing impact. We know there is discrimination against those who grew up in the care system. The outcomes for children and young people in care has been extensively researched, and there is a clear pattern of lower educational attainment. There is less likelihood that young people who have grown up in care will transition to higher education. And it's noted that outcomes are poorer when considering the domains of health and general well-being. Other research has highlighted how adults with care experience are overrepresented in our socially excluded populations, such as prisons or the homeless or even sex workers. It doesn't help that very often media stereotyping is teaching these children that they're destined to fulfill their inherited predisposition for poor outcomes. In education, children in care have reported that their teacher treats them differently. This might be characterised as being sympathetic or showing concern, but what often goes with this is lower expectations of outcomes. Young people with care experience have said that they find the public perceive them as criminals or assume their behaviour would be problematic. Therefore, I support this motion to formally call upon other bodies to treat the care experience as a protected characteristic, but importantly, we will proactively seek out and listen to the voices of the care, those who had experience of care, to help support our policies and actions going forward, ensuring the needs of disadvantaged people is at the heart of decision-making within this council. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Member. I'm a great believer in that for the grace of God, and as far as I'm concerned, our youngsters who are in the care system should be treated as we would treat our own children. We wouldn't turf them out as soon as they hit 16, 17, 18, so why should these children be turfed out? For me, these guys are the next generation. They are our future. And don't let anyone tell you you're not worth it, because you are, 100%.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Councillor Hurain.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. It's very rare when a ward councillor gets a thoroughly good idea come across his or her inbox. And this was a thoroughly good idea. I'm pleased to say it came from one of my near neighbours, a person I'd never met before, but the idea shone out of the paper. And I was pleased to support this and obviously forward it to Sally Ann Jenkins' team, who thoroughly embraced it, did a lot of research on it, and made the wheels turn on this. I had the pleasure this afternoon, the delight, to meet with Rowan and her daughter, who should have had these protected characteristics given to them or her when she left our care some years ago. And I'm delighted to say that if we pass this motion this evening, we will be placing the way for future generations of Newportonians to succeed in whatever endeavours they set out on. And I hope we will be able to give them that small leg up and open more doors for them. Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer.
Thank you, Councillor Hurahan. I've got Councillor Lacey.
Thank you, Presiding Member. I'm absolutely delighted to support this motion today. And being a care leaver should not be unjustifiably stigmatised. Many of our care leavers have life experiences that would make them resilient, resourceful and patient, and they would be an asset to any further education setting or workplace. As such, they should not be discriminated against, but should be propped up by their corporate parents and given every advantage to thrive. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lacey. Councillor Druitt.
Presiding Member, I just want to say thank you to so many young people in the public gallery for supporting the motion today, and particularly to Rowan, who came up with the idea. Newport Social Services do a brilliant job in supporting young people in care. But what happens when young people leave care of social services? At the age of 18, young people leaving the care system face a cliff edge. They're without the continued support of social services. They face issues with independent living, managing money, social support networks, skills and qualifications, employment. This motion will strengthen the corporate parenting function of the local authority. It will change departmental policy to take account of support of former care leavers. It's about what all council departments are going to do to support care leavers. If the City of Newport passes this motion, it will be a catalyst for other local authorities in Wales to follow suit. Other partners may adopt similar measures. I strongly support the motion to protect characteristics of care experienced people.
Thank you, Councillor Druitt. Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, President Member. I could talk for ages about why this is a good idea, really, and all the research behind it. And as you know, I've worked in this sector for most of my career. But I'm just going to say it's one of the best motions that we could possibly do in this city, and certainly one of the ones I'm more proud about in my time as a councillor. But I'll move away. I think we're talking a lot about care leavers, which is wonderful, and this is where we should be. And thanks to everybody who's made this happen today, from Phil, from Rowan, from Councillor Marshall, and the leader for presenting the motion. But also it goes behind that. I think today we met the Pathway to Independence team who are with us today, really, and we met some of those young people. And I think, we're not just talking about children in care. What we're talking about is the future engineers of this city. We're talking about the future teachers, the artists, the musicians, and they're all there. They're in there. We've had good chats with them today, and amazing people. And I think that's what we should remember as well. They're a group that we really need to help, and as corporate parents, we have a duty to help. So I'm really passionate that we're supporting this motion this evening, and I thank everybody who's got behind it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Councillor Corton.
Hi there. I just wanted to say how great I think this is. Growing up, my best friend was in foster care, and when she left and we moved into, our early 20s, she faced lots of barriers because of her, record as being a child in care, and lots of things were, put in her way. So I think something like this is going to be amazing, and I just wish it had been around 25 years ago when we were growing up. So I really hope this passes today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Corton. I think there's no question about it. It's been really well received, this motion, and certainly in my involvement in social services, when I met foster carers, they're marvellous ambassadors to this authority. They're without question. Leader, I don't think anybody else. Oh, sorry, Matthew.
Yeah, thank you, Presiding Member. And we welcome the opportunity to debate this. And there's no doubt that care leavers are at an increased risk of homelessness
and poverty. Therefore, it is imperative that the Council should ensure a clear plan for care experienced people through social housing, support with employment and education. And there was a gentleman in here earlier, I think who's travelled down from Nottingham, who's done, I think it's the 70th trip around the country to ensure this goes through. So this is something he's doing on a UK basis, and that's got to be commended. As I mentioned, care experienced people and care leavers generally have poorer mental health outcomes. However, we're informed that Welsh Government does not know how many looked after children or adopted children are on the CAMHS waiting list, and that's something to need to change. But we all have an important role to play in championing those children in care and challenging prejudice, and I think it's very important that we look. I've been on a corporate parenting forum for many years. There is a lot of positive work going on, and the Conservative group will be supporting this motion. Thank you, Presiding Member.
Councillor Reynolds.
Thank you, Presiding Member. Somebody who works in the care sector, I can't even begin to describe how happy and proud I am to support this motion. I've personally had concerns for a while. I know a lot of my colleagues have had concerns for a long time about what happens to these children that we look after, and we do our best to look after them and support them up until the age of 16 or 18, and then it is almost like a cliff edge that they fall off. And it is completely unacceptable. This motion goes so far to addressing this. It's just fantastic, and I think I'd be right in saying that if we adopt this tonight, we'll be the first authority in Wales to do so. I think that is just such a good marker for the rest of Wales to follow. The phrase earlier was used as a corporate parent. And that is just, it is so important, because we are, in effect, parents for these youngsters that, I mean, I say, having worked in the sector myself and still work in the sector, some of the backstories are heartbreaking, and I wonder sometimes how some of these people are even sane, never mind functioning, and then to face the obstacles that they face when they leave the care system is just mind-blowing. So I'm so much in support of this. I'm so proud to support it, and I just hope this is passed unanimously tonight. I'm sure it will be.
Thank you, Councillor Reynolds. I don't think there's anybody else who wants to speak. So the leader. Oh, sorry, you did want to come back, did you? Sorry.
Diolch, Presiding Officer. I speak today to both support and second the motion to recognise care experience as a protected characteristic within the framework of our commitment to diversity and equality. I'm glad to note that Newport City Council has always been a trailblazer in promoting and celebrating principles of diversity and equality, and today we have the chance to take another bold step forward. And in passing this motion here and now, we would be the first local authority in Wales to do so, as we've just said. This, amongst the growing momentum in Wales to acknowledge care experience as a protected characteristic, aligns with our commitment to inclusivity and reflects a broader societal understanding of the challenges faced by care experienced individuals. And I think Rowan and Councillor Phil Horine as well, and the young people in our observing today as well. Thank you very much for what you've done earlier today. Speaking to my colleagues, it's really appreciated. Thank you very much. And then basically, this isn't just about the legalities. It's about recognising the discrimination, as the leader said, the stigma and prejudice that care experienced young people face on a daily basis. And research has indicated that societal perceptions often lead to unfair assumptions that these individuals affect opportunities in areas such as employment, housing, education and relationships. By making care experienced protected characteristics, we empower ourselves as a local authority to proactively address these challenges. It gives us the autonomy to implement policies and programmes that will significantly improve outcomes for care experienced people. As corporate parents, we have a collective responsibility to provide the best possible care for children looked after by our authority. And the motion before us today calls on us to acknowledge that care experienced people face significant barriers throughout their lives. Despite their resilience, societal needs often go unmet. Discrimination and stigma touch various aspects of their lives, from housing, health, education, relationships, employment, and even within the criminal justice system. And as corporate parents, we are committing to being mentors, listening to the voices of care-experienced children and young people, and considering their needs in every aspect within our council work. And we are pledging today within this motion to be champions for the children in our care, challenging negative attitudes and prejudice that still exist in all corners of our society. The resolution that we're considering today is about recognising that people as a group likely face discrimination, and it emphasises our duty to prioritise the needs of disadvantaged people through collaboration and co-production. It calls for the equality impact assessments to be part of future decision-making processes, ensuring that we consider the impact of changes on people with care experience alongside those who formerly protected characteristic. In conclusion, this motion represents a progressive and compassionate step forward for our local authority, and I urge you to consider this proposal here in front of us this evening. Let us here be the leaders in Wales, setting an example for our other local councils in Wales to follow, and I second the motion today and reaffirming our commitment to diversity, equality and the well-being of all residents. Diolch.
Thank you, Councillor Norton. Right, it is over to you now, Leader.
Thank you, Presiding Member, and thank you to all colleagues in the Chamber who've spoken to this motion this evening. So I speak to this motion, Presiding Member, as the Leader of the City Council, but also as a mother and a grandmother. And I recall, Presiding Member, when I first became the Leader of the City Council, and you'll be aware of this because this was a shared experience, I had the privilege to attend an event that our volunteers organise for us every year with our colleagues in children's services, which is a Christmas party event for our looked after children. And I went along to the event and it was packed full of children having a wonderful time. The volunteers, oh my goodness, the presence, the support that they'd given, the things that they'd done. The first time, actually, that I met Natalie with a baby in her arms. And Sally said something to me that will stay with me for the rest of my life, irrespective of my role here or any roles that I might take in the future. And Sally said to me, they're all your children now. And, Presiding Member, as you know, that's something that I've taken very seriously during the time that I've been the leader of the City Council. Now, in December, I was privileged to have the opportunity to present a Pride of Gwent Award, a Lifetime Achievement Award, actually, to Mike. And Mike's lifetime achievement was fostering over 50 young people, giving them the stability in their lives that they had never experienced previously, opening up his home and giving them the warmth and the security that those young people needed. Of course, Presiding Member, we can discuss this and we can debate this, but I have to say that there is no substitute when discussing these issues for the lived experience of our children and young people who've experienced the care system. So I'd like to share some words with you and with colleagues this evening. These words are not my words. These are Rowan's words. Every 15 minutes, a child leaves care. They're twice as likely to be unemployed, 10 times more likely to experience homelessness, face a 70% increased chance that they will die prematurely, and if they do make their way into the world of work, experience one of the biggest pay gaps in the UK. These words are the words of one of those children. But they're also a testament to their resilience and their potential. Growing up fostered wasn't just a label, it was a whisper that followed through school hallways, a doubt in the eyes of teachers, a barrier blocking certain opportunities. Rowan's words. In high school, I really wanted to take 4 A-levels, but my dream was met with resistance. Teachers would say, "You already have so much on your plate." I had to have meeting after meeting to justify why I should be supported. It was an action born of kindness, but behind those words was a message that I should limit my potential, that I should not expect to achieve as much as my peers, and not because I didn't have the grades, but simply because I was fostered. Colleagues, these are Rowan's words. Rowan challenges us to rewrite the narrative for all care-experienced children. Rowan was lucky, refusing to be defined by limitations. Rowan fought for her chance, and with the support of some wonderful people, has achieved a very successful career and has also completed a long list of qualifications, including a master's degree completed with distinction. Rowan's words. My story, thankfully, is not unique. However, examples like these are often seen as the exception when they should be the norm. Care-experienced individuals possess immense strengths and perspectives, yet face systemic disadvantages across health, housing, education and employment. These are not the only spaces where care-experienced people face barriers. Even recently at a local club, a member of the committee said, "We don't want care-experienced children or adults here." These aren't isolated incidents, and they by no means the worst examples that have been heard. They're echoes of a system that doesn't see care experience as valid, as deserving of equal chances. Tonight provides an opportunity to change the narrative. By recognising care experience as a protected characteristic, we send a powerful message. We see you, we value you, and we are committed to building a future where you can thrive alongside everyone else. And Rowan asks us to take a moment to acknowledge the incredible people that have changed her life and brought her here. And again, once again, Rowan's words, "Without foster care, I simply would not be alive today. Without the social workers and the doctors and the police and the teachers who worked to create a safe space where I could grow, I would not be sat here with you. And all the wonderful things I've achieved and the beautiful family who I am so very proud of would have remained just a dream." So to the foster parents who open their homes and their hearts, to the social workers who fight for our safety, to the educators who see our potential, and to the employers who break down barriers, and to every single voice that joined this chorus for equality, thank you. Your courage, your unwavering support, your belief in us is the foundation on which this movement stands. And colleagues, those colleagues who had an opportunity to meet with some of our visitors here today will have met with Terry and will have had an opportunity to speak with Terry about his journey in terms of bringing this issue to the forefront and help him raise awareness of this in local authorities across the land. And for that, Terry, and for your efforts, Rowan, we thank you. We recognise that the journey isn't over, and there's so much more that I would like to say on this, but we thank you, we value you, and we support you, and thank you for bringing this to our attention. I'd also like to say, with regards to this motion, that this has been a tremendous effort, a wonderful journey to bring it here, a collaboration like never before. And I'd like to thank John Griffiths MS, Jane Bryant, Councillor Hoorine. I'd like to thank our Cabinet member, all of our social services staff who's helped us to get to this point. And I would like to thank Rowan and Terry for sharing their stories and helping us to better understand the better parents that we can be for everybody, for all of our children. And for these reasons, Presiding Member, I will be supporting this motion this evening. Thank you.
Right, there's no need for me to say, does anybody wish to move an amendment? So I think we'll move on to, will all councillors cast their votes, please? Yeah, I'm just waiting for the chat box, that's all. 100%, thank you very much. Well, what a start in 2024. Right, better move on to some boring stuff now, is this? Right, over to you, Leader. Item 6, council tax reduction. You okay? Right, okay. We'll leave 5 minutes to... Do you feel a drop in the doors open? Oh, they didn't want to listen to our tax reduction scheme. Clearly. Right. Right, Leader. Item 6, tax reduction scheme.
Thank you, Presiding Member. So, our report today details the Council Tax Reduction Scheme for 24-25, which requires Council approval. Council tax reduction provides reductions for low-income households, reducing the council tax that they're liable to pay. Unlike in England, there is one all-Wales scheme that provides a framework for assessing applications, which removes the postcode lottery that can result from individual schemes. The all-Wales scheme, along with some discretionary areas, has to be approved annually by Council in order for the scheme to operate. The report seeks members' approval for the scheme to be adopted for 24-25. In addition to seeking approval to adopt the scheme, the report today also lays out some technical amendments to the scheme. The technical amendments are relatively minor in nature and cover the annual uprating of personal allowances and non-dependent deductions, as well as some technical regulation changes as detailed in the report. There are areas where the Council has discretion in the operation of some aspects of the scheme, which are beneficial for both the Council and the recipients of the reduction. If the scheme in the report is not formally adopted, the discretionary areas would be lost and the default standard all-Wales scheme would instead apply. I therefore ask that this Council adopts the scheme detailed in the report so the Council tax reduction scheme and discretionary areas can continue to be provided for our residents in 24-25. Thank you, Presiding Member.
Thank you very much, Leader. Is there a seconder, please? Seconded, Deborah Harvey. Is there anyone who wants to speak on the debate? Councillor Davis.
I'll put that down so it doesn't talk back at me. Thank you, Presiding Member. Whilst in Newport, we continue to have one of the lowest council tax schemes in the whole of Wales. There will always be residents who will struggle to pay this for a variety of reasons. Residents who are in receipt of universal credit, job seekers allowance, employment support allowance and pension credit, as well as those from PIP which has a mobility component, are entitled to apply for a reduction in the payment of council tax. It's so important that residents in receipt of these benefits apply. The money is specifically set aside in our budget to support these individuals, and indeed, where it can be evidenced, backdated payments can actually be made. This also applies to those who can apply for a discount on their council tax payments, such as those who live alone or it's been assessed that they are mentally impaired. This would entitle the individual to a 25% reduction in their payments. Additionally, a resident will be entitled to the same 25% reduction if they're registered as a carer and on receipt of attendance allowance. An example of how this works is if an individual has dementia and their partner is registered as a carer, this could lead to a 50% reduction in payments. Residents can apply online via the Newport City Council portal, or if it's easier, they can head to their local community hub for support or attend the city centre library where help is at hand. I'm raising this because whilst I wholly support the council tax reduction, I'm very aware the level of applications does not reflect the number of residents in the city who are eligible and entitled to this support. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Leader. Anybody else want to speak on this? Councillor Harvey.
Really quick from me, Presiding Member. The worst thing that can happen is you're told no. So people out there need to put in an application for a discretionary relief, and what's the worst? They're going to say yes or no. You're not going to get put against a wall and shot. You've got nothing to lose by filling out the paperwork.
You don't ask, you don't get.
Exactly.
Right, okay then. I don't think anybody else wants to speak on it. So could all councillors please cast their votes now? In favour? That's 100%. I therefore, the Council Tax Reduction Scheme report is duly noted and approved. Item 7, Council Tax Premiums. The Leader to present the report, please.
Thank you, Presiding Member. The next report on our agenda today deals with our long-term empty and second homes in the city and the possibility of introducing council tax premiums on these. There are consequences of our significantly increasing demand for housing and the shortage of housing in the city. These are both financial, in terms of the costs the council incur in short-term homelessness accommodation, and also societal, in terms of the impact of this on individuals and families. In addition to a general lack of available housing, Newport has a large number of unoccupied properties that, despite previous initiatives, have remained stubbornly high. As well as being a magnet for antisocial behaviour, empty properties can be a blight on neighbourhoods and local communities. Council tax premiums, if introduced, should encourage owners to take steps to bring their properties back into use. At our January meeting, and following a public consultation exercise, Cabinet decided to recommend to Council that Council should adopt the proposal to introduce council tax premiums for both long-term empty properties and second homes in the city. And the report that we have today, Presiding Member, sets out the proposal. As you can see from the report, colleagues, there were 470 responses to the public consultation, and more than 75% of respondents agreed that Newport City Council should take steps to encourage owners to bring long-term empty properties back into use, with nearly 60% agreeing with the introduction of a premium as a means to achieve this. Council tax premiums, if introduced, would see owners of second homes and those that leave properties empty for more than a year charged an additional council tax. The objective is to encourage owners to take steps to bring properties back into use. Although second homes are fewer in number, a consistent approach should be taken for these underused properties as well. Therefore, the report includes recommendations to adopt council tax premiums in Newport for both second homes and long-term empty properties. The legislation, however, provides some exceptions that prevent a premium being charged in certain circumstances. Following feedback from the consultation and to address stakeholder concerns, some additional limited local exceptions are also recommended. If Council votes to agree on the introduction of council tax premiums, they will be implemented on the 1st of April this year for long-term empty properties and from the 1st of April 2025 for second homes. Presiding Member, I'd like to ask that members agree with the Cabinet recommendation and vote to introduce council tax premiums and support the additional exceptions as detailed in the proposed Newport scheme. Thank you.
Is there a seconder to that? Councillor Jane, did you want to speak Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Presiding Member. I have mixed views on this, and your record on bringing empty homes back into use is, quite frankly, abysmal. The latest corporate plan, I think, mentions that you've brought back into use 4 out of 993. It's in red, so this is woefully inadequate. So I do recognise there is radical action needed to address the situation in the city, but empty properties are a complex issue with barriers including emotional attachment to properties, legal issues, and this is not going to tackle these. Whilst I understand there are statutory exemptions to the payment of premiums, we must ensure where, for instance, building work is taking place to make empty homes habitable, we take a more pragmatic approach. As far as second homes are concerned, if I've read the report correctly, there are only 15 in Newport, and I don't believe their council tax should double, and I'm not convinced that this is worth collecting and chasing. So I'm not against taking reasonable actions to address the massive backlog of empty properties that blight the city, but I cannot support penalising those who have a second home here, and I will be abstaining, Presiding Member.
Anybody else wants to speak on the Councillor Davis? Oh, sorry, Councillor. Which one? Councillor James. All right. Councillor Davis then. Right.
Thank you. Thank you, Presiding Member. I was at door knocking very recently, and as we politicians often do, and we walked past a property which had clearly once been someone's much-loved home, now standing sad and empty, garden overgrown, tiles slipping off the roof, original windows darkened and grubby with the tattered curtains still in place, clearly abandoned a long time ago. We commented how this could be someone's home to one of those 9,000 people who are currently registered as needing help in Newport. Then the neighbour came out, loudly critical that this house has become a blight to the neighbourhood, devaluing his property and increasing the risk of antisocial behaviour. And this is why we need to do something, especially when you realise that we have 2,565 empty properties within our boundaries. People desperately need affordable homes, and I know that our Cabinet member, Councillor Clark, has made this one of his key priorities, and this will be part of his toolkit and as part of a number of measures that can be used. To increase the council tax premium on these properties will, I hope, encourage their owners to finally either put them on the market or to decide to develop them themselves. Thank you.
Councillor Petroni.
He's objected to second homes, if I heard him correctly, and that he would be abstaining. I would like to raise the awareness of Councillor Evans about the damage second homes can do. In a previous lifetime was in Monmouthshire, and second homes was untackled for years upon years under a Conservative council. Now it blights Monmouthshire with an enormous plethora of second homes, decimating communities. It's important that we prevent that now in Newport, taking over in Newport. Prevention's better than cure. We can't just wait for second homes to be purchased up from rich people, mainly in London or elsewhere, taking up valuable homes in Newport from Newportonians. Prevention's better than cure. Let's make our stand now.
Thank you, Councillor James. All right, I've said it. Yeah, okay. It's come on.
Okay, thank you, Presiding Member. The position we find ourselves in Newport is not unique. It's similar throughout the UK. Lack of accommodation with rising numbers of people needing help is sadly a common issue for every council in the UK, not just Newport, every council. The proposal in front of you today, or this evening, is of course not a magic wand. We know that, but it's part of the jigsaw of making positive inroads which are necessary. Newport wants to work with the property owners. We want to work with the property owners in trying to help others, and by working together, outcomes can happen. And You know, Councillor Evans, your point obviously came across, but also we have to listen to the residents of Newport. And in the consultation, this is what they want. And not only is what they want, this proposal is actually taking it in a direction which they want. So, just quickly summing up, in these tough times, which it is for a lot of people, this can help. And because it can help, it won't solve, but it can help, of course, I'll be behind this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Councillor Howells.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Member. If I can declare an interest at this stage, working for a housing provider in Newport. I just wanted to make a few comments on the report, really. One, at 3.1 of the report, it refers to where registered social landlords have strategic empty properties that are earmarked for future large-scale developments. The Council will develop a policy that balances the need for homes of future development. This is an issue which some of my colleagues on the Performance and Scrutiny Committee that I'm currently chairing will be aware of. It's something they've raised, that people raise with them often, that social landlords' properties are sat empty, nothing's happening with them, and they get queries all the time.
Sorry, Member, the point of interest, please?
Yeah.
Should you may have declared an interest in this?
He did.
Oh, sorry,
he did. Yeah.
No, thank you. I did at the start. Yeah.
Clear interest.
Sorry. So, in terms of social landlords, it's something we get complaints about in the ward all the time. Those properties are empty. Some are earmarked for development, some are empty because of voids. It does say that a policy will be developed to deal with that balance. What I'd like some clarification on is whether that will come back to Council for ratification as a policy, because the exclusions in the report are laid out. But if there's going to be a separate policy for exclusions for a social landlord, I expect that to come back to full Council. So I'd like some clarification on that, or whether perhaps it might come to Performance and Scrutiny for clarification. And in relation to that, I'd like to see the Council go a bit further. We do need to tackle empty properties. It's really important. We have a huge homelessness and housing problem in the city at the moment, and lots of families in temporary accommodation, as the report outlines. I'd like to see the report think about those properties that are earmarked for large-scale redevelopment, for example, areas of Somerton Estate at the moment. Loads and loads of properties throughout that estate that are currently empty and shuttered up. We've got a temporary accommodation problem. If those are earmarked for redevelopment, why can't we use them for temporary accommodation in the meantime? I'd like the policy to think about that and how we can tackle that. And then, going a bit further, I'd like the Council to have a think about how we can actually tackle those business properties that remain empty that might be suitable for repurposing as residential accommodation to improve the chances of people to get housing in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. I do believe that when we had a seminar with the head of housing, he did say they were going to look and address the issues with the RSLs, because I think he mentioned there was about 400 empty houses and they were going to be looking at that. So I would hope that when he has that meeting, it would either come back to scrutiny or come back to council in some format anyway. Right, the next one I've got is Councillor Fairweather.
My point has been made, Mr. Presiding Member, so...
Okay, thank you. Councillor Druitt?
Less than 200 yards from this building in my ward, in a very leafy street in my ward, a four-bedroom house has been unoccupied, a private residence, unoccupied for more than 10 years. There's nothing I've been able to do about it because this is a private residence. But the landlord, the owner of the house, has done nothing about it, despite requests to do so. This motion will do something to address houses like this and bring them back into use.
Thank you. I got Councillor Ardown, please.
Thank you, Presiding Member. Just want to say that I fully support this proposal, and just going back to what Councillor Howells mentioned, the committee sought clarification on the council tax premium, and the council has the authority to impose it on registered social landlords. So the council tax premium is an issue for finance as opposed to housing and communities. So I fully back this motion, and I just want to thank Councillor Alex Pym and Councillor James Clark, the cabinet member responsible for this particular portfolio, in listening to us. And yes, so it does actually apply to RSLs. Thank you.
I got Councillor Corton.
Hello, I just wanted to say that this isn't just about empty houses for housing as well. By putting the pressure on homeowners who leave their properties unoccupied for a long time, we're also going to stop these houses being used for antisocial behaviour, perhaps cannabis grows, which, you know, at the moment in our ward, bordering Councillor Harvey, Councillor Pym's ward, we've got 2 houses that are suffering with antisocial behaviour that have both been vacant for a long time. And they're privately owned. So I think this is a great thing on many levels, not just for rehousing all those people that need the support. Thanks.
Is there a point of explanation?
Yes, a point of clarification, actually, in relation to what Councillor Clark said a bit earlier about the public being in favour in the public consultation about the empty properties, which is true. But it does say in the report that when it comes to second homes, the question of whether the council should introduce a premium for second homes, so 47% for the introduction of second home premium and 38% against. So it was not as clear-cut as the previous consultation.
If I can come back, that's okay. That's not what I meant, what I said.
Right, okay.
I've just referred to the consultation.
Yeah, okay.
The residents of Newport.
Okay. What was interesting, just for the leader, there's not many people have said tonight about the effect second home has on people that lives next door to them. Sorry, I should have brought you in. And I think anybody living next door.
Yes, you should have, Mr. President.
All right, well, come, have your chance now before the leader winds up on the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Member. That's exactly what I was going to say. It's okay, everyone sat there, oh no, it's my precious second home. You might live in there for 6 weeks. The neighbour lives in there 52 weeks of the year. And they got to put up with the antisocial behaviour, the criminal damage and everything that goes with it. As Councillor Corton has just alluded to, there are 2 properties right on our border, and there's a heavily pregnant lady in the house next door. She have had a brick through her window because the 2 houses on the other side are empty and have been empty for a long time. Police involvement, environmental health involvement. If they have to pay double council tax, maybe they'll get off their backside and sort out the issue so that lady can live in peace.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Right, leader, it is your turn.
Why? Thank you, Presiding Member, and I'd really like to thank colleagues for engaging so actively in the debate on that particular item. Well, we've debated this particular proposal, and certainly in listening to the comments this evening, Presiding Member, I think a number of things have been highlighted for me. But firstly, Presiding Member, I'd like to talk about a council, us as a council, and our superpowers. What are our superpowers? What can we do? What can we do? We talk all the time about finance, but what can we actually do to affect change? Well, we've got enabling powers. We've got our regulatory powers, and we've got our statutory powers. And this is one example of us using the powers that we've got available to us to bring about change. And we know, because we are a listening council, that this is the change that the citizens of Newport would like to see. We know that, we can evidence that. Now, we've had a toolkit for some time, an action plan that helps us support people to bring empty homes back into use. It provides incentives and encouragement and guidance for people. But clearly, more is needed, Presiding Member. And in order to strengthen that, we need to use our superpowers. We're a growing city. We've seen a 10% increase in our population over the last 10 years. There's unprecedented demand for housing and intense pressure on the housing system in Newport across all forms of housing tenure. Now, it's quite interesting, actually, because when I was listening to the debate, as the leader of the authority, I actually go out into the wards with my ward members. I walk around their wards, they point out some of the challenges they face, and we talk about what can we do together to try and address these challenges, because, of course, that's what we're here for. So I was delighted to walk around the Alterine ward with the Alterine member, and I think the action that we're taking less than 12 months later doesn't reflect that woefully inadequate description we heard earlier in this debate at all. In fact, I think what it does represent is sharp, positive action, listening to what people have got to say and trying to address it using the powers that are available to us. So thank you very much to Councillor Druitt for alerting me to that particular challenge. But you're right. This is about working together. Whether it's me working with individual councillors, whether it's us working collaboratively, whether it's our amazing finance team, and Emma has worked so hard on this with representatives from other local authorities in Wales, learning from issues that they faced in order to develop a scheme for us that works for Newport. It is about working together, and the next steps will be to discuss with our RSL partners at our Strategic Housing Forum, which is the appropriate forum for further developing their ideas, seeking their views and developing the detail of the policy that we need with regard to RSLs, in partnership together to develop this policy, which of course will come back to scrutiny in good course. So thank you very much for the opportunity to present this. We know this is something that our residents want to see. We know this is something that will make a difference in Newport. And once again, this is something for the many, not the few. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Will members all cast their votes now, please? Those for? Any against? Was 100%, so that's a duly. Sorry? Oh, well, I can't. Sorry, I was looking at the chat box. Sorry. You abstained. Okay, well done. Right, item 8. Governance and Audit Committee Annual Report. Rhys, where's Rhys Cornwall? I think you were going to present this report.
Evening, Council. So, just doing this on behalf of the Chair of Governance and Audit Committee. So, pleased to present to Council the first annual report from Newport's Governance and Audit Committee. The report looks at work undertaken by the committee in the year 2022-23. This is the first report from the Governance and Audit Committee and is not part of the legislative framework but represents best practice. The role of and function of the previous Audit Committee was changed as a result of the Local Government Elections Act Wales 2021, and this created the Governance and Audit Committee as it currently stands. The terms of reference for the committee are included within the report in Appendix 1. The committee consists of 3 lay members, Mr Gareth Chapman as Chair, Mr Don Reid as Vice Chair and Dr Norma Barry, along with 5 elected members, Councillors Cox, Harris, Horton, Jordan and Mogford. I'd first like to thank all members of the committee for their challenge and assessment of various governance arrangements. This is a critical part of the Council's assurance processes, and the robust work of the committee should provide a level of comfort to Council regarding the collective management of financial controls, risk and governance arrangements. The committee has undertaken a range of activities during the year 22-23. Just to cover off a few of those, they have approved the internal audit plan and monitored performance against that plan. They have reviewed the internal audit reports and sought assurances of changes required and, where necessary, calling in senior officers for that process. They've provided assurance regarding progress against recommendations of regulatory bodies. They reviewed the draft financial statements. They've reviewed the Council's Treasury management strategies and compliance through prudential indicators. They have assessed the effectiveness of the Council's risk management arrangements. They have maintained an overview of the Council's constitution in respect of contract procedure, rules and financial regulations. They have made recommendations as appropriate to Cabinet and Council on any matters reported through the Governance and Audit Committee. They've ensured compliance with legal requirements, namely the Local Government Elections Act Wales 2021, in respect of overseeing the Council's performance assessment and arrangements for handling complaints. They've also provided assurance regarding the Council's annual governance statement and were satisfied that it properly reflected the risk environment of the organisation and also demonstrated how good governance arrangement supports the achievements of the Council's objectives. The committee considered the Council's approach to completing its annual corporate self-assessment and endorsed the integrated approach that was proposed. The committee also considered the Council's arrangements in respect of compliments, complaints and comments. The committee has also taken an active interest in both the resourcing and opinions outputs of the internal audit team. This has enabled the committee to consider the effectiveness of the internal audit process within the assurance framework. Resourcing of the internal audit team was raised as an issue and concern within the committee, and the feedback on this was provided to the Head of Finance. The operational internal audit plan for 22-23, based on an assessment of risk and available audit resources, was reported to and approved to the Governance Audit Committee in July 22. The annual report concludes that the committee has acted in accordance with the requirements set out in the Local Government Elections Wales Act 2021 and discharged its legislative duties. The report to Council recommends the Council accepts that the Council has met its legislative responsibilities and agree the Committee's annual report and offer its thanks to committee members for their robust challenge and hard work during the year.
Thank you, Rhys. Leader, do you move the report?
Thank you, Presiding Member. I'm pleased to move the report on behalf of the committee. Thank you.
Okay. Is there a seconder to that? Right. Thank you, Councillor Evans. Are there any comments on the report? Councillor Cox?
I think that's okay. I just want to make a very brief comment because I, as a new councillor, found myself on this committee, and I must confess I was on a really very steep learning curve getting my head around, especially some of the technicalities of finance and so forth. And I was daunted at the first meeting to get something, I think it was 680 pages of documentation to read before the meeting. So it's been really hard work. But all I would like to say, it's a shame, I think, if we just pass this without a comment being said. But I really am, despite the hard work it's been a committee that I've really appreciated being on, and in being on it, I've, number one, been really impressed with the thoroughness with which people like Internal Audit and and other responsible officers are actually in managing the council's resources and overseeing its governance. I've been very, very impressed with that. And it's also given me a tremendous view of just, I think it's a bit of an understatement to say current times are not particularly easy in local government. And I've just have been really very, very impressed with what it's told me about the work of the officers on this council and the way in which, in a really difficult sort of financial climate, that they are delivering services, in a really effective way. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Is there a seconded report? Councillor Davis. Are there any comments on the report? I know Councillor Cox made. No one else? Right. Would all councillors cast their votes now? All those for? Any against? Any abstentions? No. Right. I move that the Governance and Audit Annual Report is duly noted and accepted. I move on to item 9 now, the Council schedule of meetings. I'm happy to move this report as a guide for the coming year. Is there a seconder, please? Leader, thank you very much. Is there any comments on this proposal? Would all councillors cast their vote now, please? All those for? Any against? No. Right. Therefore, the Council schedule meeting is duly adopted. I move on to item 10, mayoral nomination for 2024/2025. The leader to introduce this item.
Thank you, Presiding Member. And it gives me great pleasure this evening, Presiding Member, to make the mayoral nomination for 2024-25. I'm delighted that to move my colleague, Councillor Ray Mogford, as the Mayor for the forthcoming municipal year. As you'll be aware, Councillor Mogford's been a Councillor for Langstone since 2012, so really we've had the same journey, haven't we, Ray? And I'm delighted that he'll be taking on this role in May. And I'd like to pass my best wishes to both Ray and Sally for their year in the Mayor's office. So, colleagues, I'd like to move Councillor Mogford as the next Mayor of the City of Newport.
Thank you very much. Can I invite the Leader of the Opposition, Councillor Matthew Evans, to formally second the nomination?
And thank you, Presiding Member. It also gives me great pleasure to formally second the motion. I wish you and Sally well, and we'll speak more at the Mayor making.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Would all councillors cast their vote now, please? All those for 100%, yeah, just looking now, 100%. I therefore confirm that the Councillor Ray Mogford is unanimously nominated as the Mayor of Newport for the municipal year 2024-2025. You've declared an interest in the beginning, didn't you? Sorry? Yeah, you did at the beginning. No, honestly. Hey, you want to take grace that you've got 100% votes. I wouldn't spoil it now. Right, let's move on then to item 11, rather, questions to the Leader. Leader, do you want any announcements to make? Any announcements to make?
Oh, thank you very much. I thought you'd never ask. Thank you, Presiding Member. Thank you so much. Colleagues, at the end of last week, you'll all be aware that Tata made its shattering announcement of massive job losses in its steel businesses in the UK, mainly in Port Talbot. But it's important to note that employees in Port Talbot do actually include Newport residents. Its statement also talked about potential redundancies in Lamworn Steelworks here in our city. Now, the Council understands that up to 300 jobs could be lost at Lamworn Steelworks over the next few years, while 2,500 people are to lose their jobs in Port Talbot. This is another terrible blow for an industry that was once so important to the economy of Newport and South Wales. If there was a Labour government, I don't believe we'd be seeing the end of virgin steel making in the UK. And our workers, our residents here in Newport, wouldn't have woken up to this news. We'd be going full steam ahead with a multi-union plan. Both tartar and steelworkers would feel confident that the £3 billion long-term investment would be there from a Labour government to protect jobs, our strategically important sovereign steelmaking capability, and transition sustainably to green steelmaking. Labour has earmarked £3 billion of investment to ensure the transition to green steel comes with jobs in Wales. Unfortunately, we don't have a Labour government in the UK at this time. So for us in Newport, and for those of us in Wales, we'll all be thinking of these workers and their families, who now face another period of uncertainty while waiting to find out how the announcement will affect them. What I can say with confidence is that our work and skills team will be available to offer advice and support to our residents who are facing redundancy at either Llanwern or Port Talbot when they need it. We are here to support you. I'm pleased to update colleagues that we've once again been able to support the provision of warm spaces in Newport this winter. To date, 16 grants have been awarded to community groups across the city, offering a safe, welcoming and comfortable environment to residents who may be struggling to heat homes or who are at risk of isolation. In partnership with Gavo, more than £35,000 has already been given. It follows the success of a similar scheme last year when grants were given up to 21 groups who delivered 448 sessions attended by more than 6,300 people. 6,300, that is a huge number of people, isn't it? And I'd really like to thank all of those volunteers in the groups across the communities that actually apply for the grants and make it happen. So it's our volunteers that really support this. Now, this is just one of the ways that we're supporting organisations and residents during the ongoing cost of living crisis. There's an incredible amount of good work going on across the city, with support being provided by our staff and partners. It's included providing shopping vouchers, Newport Live memberships and pantomime tickets for carers, and financial assistance to food banks. Another of those initiatives is a wide range of free activities for family and children that were held across the city during the recent school holidays. And as an added benefit, we were also able to partner with Newport Bus to offer free transport to those sessions. And I'd like to pay tribute to the time, effort and hard work my colleague, Councillor Harvey, has put into making that happen for the people of Newport. So thank you, Councillor Harvey, for that. Now, we also introduced a new initiative, which I'm really pleased to feed back to you on, because it turns out this is a great scheme. We kicked off the new year with another positive scheme. Thank you, Councillor Forsey. The collection of real Christmas trees. And residents, and certainly I did, I don't know about anybody else in the room, in the chamber today, but I certainly booked this amazing service. So we were able to book a free doorstep collection. Over 2,000 bookings were made, and every tree has made its way to our in-house composting facility to be chipped and composted. So, well done, everybody. Great initiative introduced there that really helps us across the city. Now, colleagues, presiding member, it can't have escaped anyone's attention that we're starting to see the results of the investment, the consultation and investment in play areas across the city. And earlier this month, I was honoured to join the Headley-back students from Malpas Court Primary, the Mayor, the Mayoress and Cabinet colleagues to mark the completion of the new and improved Darwin Drive play area in Malpas. This follows on from our very first opening towards the end of last year, which was the amazing refurbishment of the Rupera Park in Pill. Now, our play areas are benefited from replacements of the play equipment, new flooring, and the one we visited last week is the latest to be upgraded as part of our programme. But what's important to note, presiding member, is that every play area included in the programme will be upgraded following consultation with local residents, so that their needs and preferences are considered at all stages of the work. Consultations are now open for play areas in Shaftesbury and St Julian's, so please be sure to visit our website and have your say. Now, presiding member, I'm sure that both you and colleagues in the chamber will have seen the media coverage of some of the activities of our public protection team. Last week, our Trading Standards team once again took part in a multi-agency operation as part of an ongoing crackdown on illegal tobacco and vapes. Our officers have been extremely successful in uncovering these operations, seizing the illegal products, getting the premises closed and obtaining the prosecutions. What a difference this is making, not in terms of addressing the criminal element, but also in terms of protecting our citizens. A huge thank you to the dedicated officers who've been involved in this work, and our partner organisations and agencies that work with us on this, and to Councillor Clark for the work that he's done in leading this. Now, I've already mentioned, presiding member, the successful family activities held over the last holiday period, the Christmas period. I would like to highlight, though, that over the February half-term school holiday, council teams, including our youth and play workers, will once again be running free events for children. These will include inclusive activities for all the family and quiet and sensory sessions. Now, information about what's happening in the next half-term break will be publicised soon and when the details become available. And I'd really like to encourage all members here in the chamber today to spread the word locally, so let people know that these events are going on across the city. You know, it's a great opportunity for children and families. The events will be spread across venues in the city, and they're open, of course, to all of our children. And finally, presiding member, on behalf of Newport City Council, I'd like to say a huge, big, massive, bigger than the biggest massive ever congratulations to Newport County on their 1-0 victory over Wrexham at Rodney Parade at the weekend. I think it really demonstrated to our visitors and to all the people that attended the match or attended some of the hostelries within the city centre what a positive experience coming to Newport can be to engage in that sporting activity. So a huge, massive well done to our team for making us so very proud once again. And good luck to the manager and the players for Sunday for their FA Cup draw at home at Rodney Parade in our fine city with Manchester United. Good luck from all of us here at Newport City Council, including the Liverpool supporters.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Evans, you're not going to say you're a Man United supporter, are you? No.
Sadly, no, certainly not. Red is an aggressive colour, and any black and amber is far more appropriate for my dress sense, and blue is also a calming colour. So certainly not, but I also wish them the best of luck on Sunday. My question to the Leader of the Council is, since questions to the Leader have not allowed supplementary ones, I don't believe a single extra backbencher has had the opportunity to ask you a question because of the time it takes for you to read the answers to the first loaded question from a Labour councillor. So I'm not going to ask you a question today to give others a chance to. Hopefully you will also give others that opportunity as well.
Leader?
Sorry, it's not a question, it's just a statement.
It's just a statement. Yeah. I got to move. I've been saying I got to move on to the next one. That's what I was told.
Point of order.
Are you sorry,
no,
presiding member? Are you denying me the opportunity to respond to the statement? Are you?
Yes, I am because
right.
That's what I was advised.
Point of order. Are you going to reset the clock? We're 1 minute 25 seconds in, and every minute counts.
Sorry? We're starting the clock now.
Thank you.
Okay. Right, Councillor Morris.
How long have I got, Mr. Mayor?
15 minutes.
Over the last 5 years, the Council has overspent on the budget underspent on the budget every year for the last 5 years. 2003, 5.1 million. 2022, 18 million. 2021, 14 million. 2020, 2 million. 2019, 2.3 million. Each time the Cabinet has then set budgets and recommendations of significant increases in council tax to our hard-working residents, except, of course, during an election year, but we won't go into that. £41 million of residents' council tax has therefore been used to top up the council's reserve. So they're seeing reduced services, paying more for it, and also extra money is going into the council's reserves. It's a win-win-win for the council and a lose-lose-lose for the people we represent. The current proposal of 8.5 also for this year also sees residents facing another inflation-busting increase while the council keeps topping up the balances further. When will the leader get a grip of the council's budget, cut out the waste and start providing value for money and services and provide realistic rate increases for the people we represent? Today I've heard from Cabinet members and prominent councillors, times are tough. We've heard of a cost of living crisis, and listen to the people. We're putting an awful lot of money in the bank. People out there need our help more than ever, irrespective of your political colour or position. We need to be paying more attention to the people out there who really are suffering under these hard times.
Point of order, Chair. Councillor Morris, when he started off his question, he said we'd overspent. Then he corrected himself. So, in the interest of clarity, could he repeat the question, please?
No, I think the leader is more than capable of answering Councillor Morris's.
For the sake of clarification, I meant underspent. My error.
Sorry?
For the sake of clarification, I meant underspent when I first said overspent.
All right.
Did that apply to the whole question, Presiding Officer?
Leader, do you understand the question that Councillor Morris has put to you, first of all, because there's a bit of confusion here? Well, if you don't, I don't. Councillor Morris, can you just repeat? We'll have to stop the clock a minute while we just... Can you just repeat the question, please? And so we'll stop the clock, though.
When will the leader get a grip of the council budget, cut out the waste and start providing value for money for services and provide realistic rate increases that aren't going to hurt the people that we represent?
Okay.
Thank you, Presiding Member, and I'd really like to thank Councillor Morris for his question. However, I would like to point out to colleagues in the Chamber today that this is not the budget debate. It is regular questions to the leader. And so some aspects of the points that Councillor Morris has raised here this evening I am unable to comment on because we don't even have the results of the public consultation back yet in terms of the council tax. So it would be totally inappropriate of me to prejudge anything that the citizens of Newport might say or prejudge what any of those responses may be. But I would like to make some points, general points, on the budget and on our finances for all members. Now, in December, I think, and I just look to finance, was it December, the last training session? So in December, there was a training session that was made available to all of our elected members on finance and the budget, and there was also a similar training session which was made in the previous year as well. So two opportunities there for our elected members to really start to develop a refined understanding of local authority finance. And I do understand that local authority finance can be quite challenging for some people. In fact, Presiding member, in watching back some of the scrutiny committees, I've listened very carefully to some of the comments that our elected members have made about finance and the budget. So whilst the training's been in place, I think it's really important to emphasise with regard to the specific question here today, there is a difference between our revenue budget, our capital budget, and of course our reserves. Now, I think what might be useful in advance of the budget and any budget debate would be for a short briefing note, looking to the head of finance here, to be distributed to all elected members to help them better understand those differences. Because it seems to me the question that I've been asked this evening does not demonstrate an understanding of those differences, particularly with regard to reserves and earmarked reserves. So that is really important. I'm happy to answer questions, presiding member, but what we have to have is an assurance that councillors do understand those very basic differences, and I'm sure we'll be happy to help with that. I want to make a point on budget underspend, because yet again, this is something that seems to confuse people. And we have a monthly monitoring report. We report to Cabinet, we report to Council on our progress against the medium-term financial plan. But we know that within any given year, there are fluctuations in expenditure. So just to give the example of this year and where we are with that at this point in time, we've reported back regularly the impact of the increased costs of social care and the demands around social care, the increased pressure with regards to homelessness and how that's impacting on our spending. And we have repeatedly reported back that there is an overspend at this point in time on those areas. Now, it might well be through the receipt of late grants from Welsh Government and prudence by other service areas that we may get to a point where that balances out. But at this point in time, we are still forecasting an overspend due to the pressures on service provision. It's really important to understand, however, that whilst the financial year may end on the 31st of March, we don't get to consider, as elected members, as a cabinet, our reconciled accounts until June or July. And it's only at that point we will know and understand whether we've got an underspend or an overspend available to us. If we find ourselves in a position where we still got an overspend at that point, we do have to make provision, and that will be challenging for us. If we find ourselves in a position where there is an underspend, we will be able to allocate that to other areas of service. The point, however, that I'm trying to make is that when it comes to finance, we need to regard it as something that is flexible, that does move. It's not consistent at any one point in time. And what we consider when we consider spending patterns, particularly around the revenue budget, relates to forecasts of expenditure. And I know, I do understand that this can be a challenge for some elected members to really get to grips with. And so what I'm proposing in advance of the budget debate, presiding member, is that the head of finance circulate a briefing note to elected members, just setting out the basics around that, just to give them confidence in their contributions and their questions that they may ask. However, I certainly can't comment on any levels of council tax at this stage because we don't even have the public consultation results back. Thank you.
Morris, is there a supplementary question to what the leader said? In writing. No, in writing. Are you going to... No, it's in writing. Sorry, I meant to say writing. I didn't say that. Okay. Right, the next one I've got now is Councillor Whitehead, but he's not here. So who's going next? Sorry. Councillor Pat Druitt then. I just thought another independent would have taken it, but it haven't.
Thank you, Presiding Member. Can the leader provide members with an update on the Newport City events calendar and explain how the City Council supports and promotes events? And is the leader aware of any evidence which demonstrates the positive impact of events across the city?
Just clarifying some points there.
Am I okay to come in, Presiding Member?
Sorry, yes, sorry.
Thank you, Presiding Member. And thank you, Councillor Druitt, for your question. I'm really pleased, and if councillors haven't had the opportunity to look at this, I highly recommend that you do. That our teams have launched a Newport Events webpage. Now, what's really good about this is that this is not something that is uniquely within the control of the council. This webpage is actually open to all groups and different businesses, voluntary sector organisations to load their events onto it. So what we've got is a contemporary calendar of events that are happening across the city. Now, I'm really pleased and proud with this development because it helps to bring everything together, and not only does it help our citizens, it also helps those visitors to the city, and will help with that indeed. So I'm really pleased that this has been introduced, and this is well, a great initiative. So in terms of the evidence, I think it's very difficult to capture the evidence, because if we look at this, it's possibly easier to quantify. The qualitative evidence, however, is harder, I think, to evidence. But I do know, and I'm really pleased to state, that according to data from the official counting software that we use, footfall in the city centre for the period to the end of October last year was 5.3% ahead of the first 10 months of 2019. And why is this important? It's important because that was the last trading year before COVID. So we are starting to see a recovery, and the software that we use actually helps us see the difference, the impact that events can make. I'm really proud of that, and I'm really proud of that because if you look across Wales, what we can actually see, that footfall for the same period is actually down by 13%, and in the UK as a whole, it's down by almost 14%. And what that indicates very, very strongly is that the work that we do together and the way that we collaborate here in Newport with our partners in terms of developing events and putting on events across the city, that is really bearing fruit. Not only is it about providing opportunities, and most of those indeed, are free of charge to our citizens to attend and participate in. Not only does it do that, it helps to put Newport on the map, and it helps us to attract other visitors. And I think that according to the Business Improvement District, the Countdown to Christmas event actually attracted more than almost 9,000 visitors. Now, that is wonderful news, isn't it, for the families that attend and they come along to those events. Fabulous for those children, many of which may not access other Christmas activities in that way. So it's a tremendous thing. But what a difference that event can make to our businesses in terms of the footfall and the opportunities for people to shop across our city centre. Now, I'm really proud of that, and I'm proud of the work that we do. And if you reflect upon our calendar last year, we had a number of quite notable events that were particularly well attended. So as well as the Countdown to Christmas, events like Armed Forces Day, I mean, the number of people in the city that came to Armed Forces Day, it was incredible, wonderful. And yet again, another free event. And to see those children and young people, you know, trying out those activities, engaging in that, and the wonderful free concert at the end of the day was quite incredible. I can't mention events and these issues without mentioning other events such as the Big Splash, Pride in the Port, the Food Festival, and of course Newport Rising. and the wonderful, wonderful torchlit parade. There were so many people last year. But every time we have an event like that, however we support it, whether we support it with our officers, with guidance around health and safety, whether we support it financially with grants, what we're doing as a City Council is getting behind the groups and individuals in our city that is helping to make our city a destination for everybody. Not just providing events and exciting opportunities for our citizens, but making Newport a destination for everybody. And when Newport becomes a destination, what do we see? People visit the market, they stay at the Mercure Hotel, they go to the Newport Arcade. We are seeing businesses starting to benefit from the events across the city. And as elected members, we should not lose sight of the benefits that our events calendar can bring to this. So, colleagues, I look forward to seeing you all at our events across the forthcoming year, particularly our celebrations for the 80th anniversary of D-Day later this year. And thank you very much, Councillor Druitt, for your question. Thank you, Presiding Member.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Mogford.
Thank you,
Apparently, I've just been told the time is up.
Well,
well,
can I tell you?
No.
Can I tell you the
Well,
time?
can I suggest you put it in writing to the... Well, the time is up. It's 15 minutes. I didn't make this decision.
It's 13 minutes. We reset the clock twice.
I think you'll find it's under your discretion, Presiding Member.
My discretion is Councillor Mogford should sit down because it's over. 15.
We had two questions tonight.
Sorry?
We had two questions tonight.
Well, that's not my problem. I think your leader could have asked the question. He didn't. He said a statement.
He wouldn't have had time.
His statement was exactly what's happened.
Thank you.
We're moving
Point
on.
of order, Mr. Presiding Member. This was voted on in Democratic Services,
Exactly.
and that's across party.
Exactly. Right, let's move on to item 12, questions to Cabinet members. There are two written questions to Cabinet members. Question 1, Councillor Lacey, Cabinet Member Infrastructure and Assets. Councillor Rees, your question to the Cabinet Member, please.
Thank you, Presiding Member. The proposed 2024-25 budget is looking to raise revenue by increasing charges across car parks, including the Kingsway Centre car park, by 9%, potentially putting off more shoppers and leisure seekers from heading into the city centre. Would the Cabinet Member not agree with me that by better managing the car park itself, such as not having the lighting running all night and opening up the car park on all Rodney Parade match days to bring in more trade into the car park, then potentially more revenue could be raised and shoppers and leisure seekers wouldn't be penalised for bringing their trade into the city centre?
Councillor Lacey, please.
Thank you, Presiding Member. Thank you for your question, Councillor Reeks. The Kingsway car park provides an excellent facility for visitors to the city, being a modern car park and close to city centre attractions. The lighting utilises energy-efficient bulbs, and when the car park is not in use, emergency level lighting will be operated. Along with other work in reducing our carbon emissions, with the council activities such as increasing our own EV fleet, we are currently progressing a scheme to install solar panels on the roof of the Kingsway that will provide energy for the car park. The car park is typically open every day aside from Christmas Day and New Year's Day, with opening on Boxing Day being considered on an annual basis. As such, any demand from Rodney Parade match days would be accommodated, apart from those 2 days per year. In the event that the Kingsway is closed, the other council's surface car parks will be available. The spaces within these surface car parks are as follows. Emlyn Street has 42 spaces, the Riverfront has 37 spaces, Stowe Hill has 43 spaces, and Faulkner Road has 197 spaces. But to also add, infrastructure have tracked the tickets issued in our surface car park for the 1st of January, and broadly they don't show a greater demand for the 1st of January over any other days in the period when the Kingsway would have not been open. Thank you.
Councillor Lacey. Councillor Rees, do you have a supplementary question? Okay. Moving on. Question 2 is to Councillor Forsey, Cabinet Member for Climate Change and Biodiversity. Councillor Mogford, your question to the Cabinet Member, please.
Thank you, Presiding Member. In a recent response to my question at any time regarding worrying levels of fly tipping across the city, the Cabinet Member simply stated, with regards to fly tipping, Newport has the second highest successful prosecution rate in Wales. However, if we look closely at the statistics for the previous period, 2022 to 2023, and this is sourced from the Welsh Government, there were 5,631 investigations carried out by NCC and less than 40 fines issued, of which only 14 prosecutions made. Can the Cabinet Member confirm that continuing on as part of the corporate plan and now on their watch, this NCC administration has really established and maintained a zero-tolerance approach to fly tipping? And, if so, why does the Cabinet Member think the trend remains one of increasing fly tipping across the city? Thank you.
Councillor Forsey.
Thank you, Presiding Member. The Council has, over the last few years, increased the resources available to tackle fly tipping with the expansion of the Waste Enforcement and Engagement Team. There has also been increased work with partner organisations and volunteer groups, and big projects such as covert operations and the successful Road to Nature project. The Council also actively encourage people to report fly tipping, and the Waste team carry out proactive monitoring of hotspots. While all this can lead to an increase in the number of incidents reported and recorded, it is the right approach to ensure that fly tipping incidents are adequately managed, and more importantly, it has a significant increase in the number of actions taken as a result. Actions cover a wide range of activities, but in many cases, officers cannot issue a fixed penalty notice or proceed to prosecution stages due to the lack of evidence. There are sets of rules which need to be followed, and the legal process is complex. This is why the level of sanctions issued across the UK has been traditionally and still is low. However, NCC has improved dramatically over the last few years, and the trend continues.
Councillor Forsey. Councillor Mugford, do you want to say? Okay. Right, that concludes the business set out on the agenda for the day, but the date of the next meeting is Thursday, the 29th of February. Just make sure on your diaries, and I declare the meeting closed.